On a bank holiday weekend in May 2002, a small team of archaeologists worked until 2 in the morning by the headlights of their cars 3 miles from Stonehenge. They were excavating a routine planning dig for a new housing estate. What they pulled out of the chalk that night would become the richest early Bronze Age burial ever found in Britain. Inside the grave was a man dead for 43 centuries. Beside him were the secrets of how Stonehenge's world really worked, and it would take 20 more years before DNA finally revealed who he truly was. The man in the grave had been dead for 43 centuries when the archaeologists first saw him. He lay on his left side, his knees drawn up, his head pointing north. He was 35 to 45 years old, strongly built, and had clearly suffered terribly in life. His left kneecap had been ripped off in a violent injury years earlier. He walked with a pronounced limp. He had a chronic bone infection that would have caused him constant pain. He had an abscess that had eaten clean through the bone of his jaw, and around him lay roughly 100 objects, 10 times the contents of any other beaker grave ever found in Britain. Among them were 2 thin gold hair ornaments. They are the oldest, securely dated gold objects ever found on British soil. The team had stumbled into something extraordinary, and they did not yet know how strange the story would become. Wessex Archaeology, the team that excavated the burial, was led by Dr. Andrew Fitzpatrick, and from the very first day Fitzpatrick understood this was no ordinary Bronze Age man. The grave goods told the story: 5 beaker pottery vessels, around 16 flint arrowheads, 3 small copper knives, the earliest metals ever seen in Britain, 2 stone wrist guards, boar's tusks, a bone pin, and most telling of all, a small flat stone called a cushion stone, a metal worker's anvil. The man buried beside Stonehenge wasn't just an archer, he was Britain's earliest known metal worker. The press immediately christened him the King of Stonehenge, a name Fitzpatrick later admitted he had quietly leaked himself. But there was a problem. The radiocarbon dates placed him at around 2300 BC. Stonehenge had already been standing for at least 2 centuries. He hadn't built it. He had walked into a world it already dominated. And the next question was the obvious one: where had he walked from? The answer came from his teeth. In 2006, Dr. Jane Evans of the British Geological Survey, working with Carolyn Chenery and Andrew Fitzpatrick, published an isotope analysis of 2 of the archer's teeth in the journal Archaeometry. Tooth enamel locks in the chemical signature of the water a child drinks during the years it forms. By measuring strontium and oxygen isotopes, they could reconstruct exactly where this man had spent his childhood. The results were astonishing. The chemistry did not match the chalk lands of southern England. It did not match anywhere in Britain at all. It matched glacier-fed streams of Central Europe, almost certainly the alpine foothills of Switzerland, Austria, or southern Germany. Dr. Jane Evans put it plainly. The combination of his strontium and oxygen isotope composition suggests that the most likely childhood origin for this person was in the alpine foothills region of Germany. This man, with his crippling injuries, his 100 grave goods, and his cargo of impossible metals, had walked 1,000 miles from the ALPS to die 3 miles from Stonehenge. And he hadn't done it alone. 3 meters from his grave lay a second skeleton, a younger man, 20 to 25 years old, with 2 of his own gold hair ornaments lodged inside his jaw. They quickly noticed something extraordinary. Both men shared the same rare skeletal trait, a condition called calcaneonavicular coalition, a hereditary fusion of 2 bones in the foot. It appears in only 1 to 3% of Europeans, and it is genetically inherited. For 20 years, every museum display, every documentary, every press release told the same simple story. The Amesbury Archer was buried beside his son, and what they found shattered the story everyone had been telling for 20 years. In 2022, the Reich Laboratory at Harvard University, working with Wessex Archaeology, published the ancient DNA of both men in the journal Nature. To get readable genetic material from such badly degraded bones, the team had to generate 13 separate DNA libraries from the archer alone. The result was not what anyone expected. The archer carried Y chromosome haplogroup RL, 151, the founding paternal line of nearly all modern Western European men. The younger man carried the downstream lineage RL21, today the dominant male line of Britain and Ireland. So far, so consistent with two related Bell Beaker men. But the autosomal DNA, the part inherited from both parents, told a different story. They were not first-degree relatives. They were not father and son. They were not brothers. They were not second-degree relatives either. They were not grandfather and grandson. They were not uncle and nephew. 20 years of museum placards were ruled out by a single sentence in a Nature supplementary table. So who was the Amesbury Archer, really? The DNA did one more thing. It compared his autosomal ancestry to other Bell Beaker burials across Europe and found him a misfit even there. He carried roughly 45% ancestry from Europe's first farmers, far more than the other Beaker rivals in Britain. His genetic profile matched burials at Hagenheim, near Basel, in the western ALPS. His teeth said the ALPS. His DNA said the ALPS. And the companion, the younger man buried beside him, was different again. He was born in Wessex, but spent his late childhood somewhere on the continent, possibly in the same alpine valleys the Archer had come from. A family that shuttled across a continent, across generations. The radiocarbon dates show the Archer died up to 80 years before the companion. That leaves one tantalizing possibility DNA cannot rule out. The companion may have been the Archer's great-grandson, a distant descendant who returned to bury his ancestor's heir near the same monument. We will probably never know. What we do know is this. As of 2025, the Wessex Archaeology website still calls them likely father and son. The Salisbury Museum collection page mentions no DNA at all. The science has moved on. The story everyone learned has not. The Amesbury Archer is the perfect reminder that bones tell stories museums cannot easily update. A crippled metalworker walked 1,000 miles from the Alps to die at the foot of Stonehenge, carrying technologies that would change Britain forever. Beside him was buried a younger man with the same rare bone in his foot, but not his son. If you enjoyed this kind of paleogenomic detective work, hit subscribe for more videos where modern DNA rewrites the history we thought was settled. See you in the next video.